Welcome back to Valuable Coin World, where one ordinary-looking Lincoln Memorial cent could be hiding a shocking secret worth more than a luxury car, and the tiny details most people ignore might change everything. First coin. The 1960 Lincoln Memorial cent entered American pockets during a decade obsessed with progress, television, chrome automobiles, and the growing confidence of a country stepping into a futuristic era. Yet this small copper coin quietly carried one of the most important transitions in modern United States coinage history. For the first time in decades, collectors noticed something unusual happening with Lincoln cents at the mint, because 1960 became the year of the famous small date and large date varieties that sparked curiosity almost immediately after release. Under bright light, the numbers in the date reveal subtle but dramatic differences, especially the shape of the 0 and the height of the 6, details so tiny that millions of people overlooked them while spending the coins on candy, newspapers, and bus fare. The warm reddish-brown glow of a fully preserved 1960 cent can still look astonishing today, especially when the original mint luster rolls across the surface like liquid fire, reflecting the powerful industrial presses that struck these coins more than 6 decades ago. Most examples are ordinary, worn smooth by time and circulation, but hidden among them are pieces with strange characteristics, sharp strikes, unusual textures, and elusive combinations that transformed an everyday cent into an object of obsession for serious collectors across generations. What makes the 1960 Lincoln Memorial cent especially fascinating is how confusion inside the minting process unintentionally created a treasure hunt that still continues today. Because production demands were massive and die preparation changed rapidly as the United States Mint struggled to balance speed with consistency. Collectors began spotting differences not only in the date size, but also in lettering thickness, spacing between the numerals, and the overall appearance of the design. Some coins display a sharper portrait of Abraham Lincoln with unusually crisp hair details and strong jaw contours, while others appear softer and flatter due to die fatigue or overused equipment. In Philadelphia and Denver, mint workers pushed presses relentlessly, creating subtle variations that would later become highly studied by numismatists. A few examples reveal slight doubling in the legends, distorted rims, off-center alignment, or strange metal coloration caused by improper alloy mixing, and these characteristics became the fuel for decades of speculation among collectors searching through jars, estate boxes, and inherited coin albums. The excitement surrounding these cents grew stronger because many discoveries happened by accident, often by ordinary people who nearly spent the coin before realizing something looked different under magnification. One of the reasons collectors remain emotionally attached to the 1960 cent is because it represents the last breath of an earlier American era before the dramatic coinage changes of the 1960s transformed the hobby forever. These coins still carried the classic bronze composition that gives older Lincoln cents their unmistakable reddish tone, and when untouched examples survive with original mint brilliance, they can appear almost unreal compared to the dull brown pieces commonly found today. A sharply struck specimen can reveal every line of the memorial building on the reverse, with tiny columns standing distinctly beneath magnification, while the obverse portrait of Lincoln seems to emerge from the metal with remarkable depth. The sensation of discovering a fully red 1960 cent hidden in an old bank roll creates a thrill that collectors compare to opening a forgotten time capsule, because the coin instantly transports them back to lunch counters, drive-in theaters, and the tense optimism of Cold War America. Even minor imperfections become part of the story, as die cracks, clipped planchets, uneven rims, and strike-through errors remind collectors that every coin survived a violent industrial birth before entering circulation. As interest intensified over the decades, the market surrounding unusual 1960 Lincoln Memorial cents became filled with stories that sounded almost impossible, including coins discovered in pocket change that later attracted astonishing offers from collectors willing to pay far beyond face value. Minor varieties with visible distinctions or attractive red surfaces have sometimes reached illustrative ranges around $2,500 to $7,500, depending on preservation, rarity, and collector demand, while more notable examples with dramatic visual appeal or scarcer combinations have approached the $9,000 level in specialized markets. High-grade coins certified by respected grading services occasionally move beyond $10,000 when their surfaces remain nearly flawless and the strike quality exceeds expectations for the era. None of these outcomes are guaranteed, and values can rise or collapse based on market conditions, authentication results, and collector interest, yet the emotional power of the possibility keeps people searching relentlessly. For some individuals, finding a rare cent in an inherited collection feels like uncovering a hidden emergency fund, while others imagine the discovery as a sudden windfall capable of covering debts, funding travel, or even contributing toward a down payment on a home. The deeper collectors investigate the 1960 cent, the more mysterious the coin becomes, especially when unusual mint anomalies enter the conversation. Certain pieces displaying dramatic errors, off-center strikes, broad strikes, rotated dies, or severe doubling have generated enormous excitement because they represent moments when the minting machinery briefly malfunctioned in spectacular fashion. An authenticated anomaly with strong visual impact may illustrate how values can climb toward $25,000 in extraordinary situations, particularly when the error is rare, highly visible, and tied to documented mint irregularities. Some elusive collector pieces with unique eye appeal or scarce variety combinations have been discussed around illustrative levels near $12,000 or even $15,000 when exceptional preservation enters the equation. The market for these coins thrives on scarcity and storytelling because collectors are not simply buying metal, they are buying a surviving fragment of American manufacturing history preserved through coincidence and luck. Every scratch-free surface, every unusually sharp strike, and every strange alignment becomes evidence that this tiny cent somehow escaped the fate that destroyed millions of others through circulation and neglect. A handful of remarkable discoveries pushed the mythology of the 1960 Lincoln Memorial Cent even further, particularly when coins with extraordinary characteristics surfaced in old collections or forgotten coin rolls after decades of obscurity. Stories circulated about unusually preserved examples with blazing red color, near-perfect strike detail, and rare variety combinations, drawing enormous attention from advanced collectors competing aggressively at auctions. Under the right circumstances, some unusual finds with strong collector demand have illustrated potential discussions around $65,000, especially when rarity, condition, and provenance align perfectly. In extremely rare cases involving historically significant examples, dramatic mint abnormalities, or elite certified grades, market speculation has even approached astonishing figures near $80,000, though such outcomes are exceptionally uncommon and should never be viewed as typical expectations. The fascination comes from the fact that these coins originally entered circulation worth only 1 cent, meaning an object once exchanged for a loaf of bread or a bottle of soda could later represent a once-in-a-lifetime discovery capable of reshaping someone's financial reality. For anyone examining a 1960 Lincoln Memorial Cent today, careful observation becomes essential because the smallest detail can completely change the story of the coin. Weight differences may indicate planchet irregularities or altered compositions, while unusual color tones ranging from bright red to deep chocolate brown can reveal environmental exposure, cleaning, or preservation quality. Collectors often study strike alignment to determine whether the dies shifted during production, and the shape of the rim can expose broad strikes, partial collar errors, or subtle mechanical abnormalities invisible at first glance. Letter doubling in phrases like Liberty or In God We Trust may suggest direlated varieties that deserve closer examination under magnification, though many forms of doubling are minor and not especially valuable. A genuine rarity usually demands professional authentication from established grading organizations capable of verifying the coin's legitimacy, condition, and variety status, because the marketplace is filled with altered pieces, misleading claims, and damaged coins mistaken for mint errors. Responsible examination protects collectors from costly mistakes while preserving the integrity of discoveries that may truly deserve attention. The enduring mystery of the 1960 Lincoln Memorial Cent is not merely about money, but about the unsettling possibility that history still hides in ordinary places, tucked away inside forgotten drawers, dusty coffee cans, inherited toolboxes, or jars of loose change ignored for decades. Somewhere, another remarkable example may still be waiting to surface, its copper surface quietly carrying a secret missed by countless hands over generations. That uncertainty keeps collectors awake at night, studying tiny date shapes, unusual rims, and flashes of doubling beneath harsh desk lamps, hoping the next coin they inspect will become the discovery everyone else overlooked. And just when it seems impossible for another ordinary cent to shock the collecting world, whispers continue to emerge about a different Lincoln coin with an even stranger story, a piece so unexpected that some experts initially refused to believe it existed at all, and the details behind that astonishing discovery are even more unbelievable than the 1960 cent itself. Next coin. The 1962 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent looked completely ordinary when it first spilled from Federal Reserve bags into grocery store cash registers, vending machines, and coat pockets across America. Yet behind its familiar copper surface existed one of the quietest and most underestimated chapters in modern coin collecting history. Produced at the Denver Mint during a period when the nation was balancing Cold War anxiety with booming economic expansion, this small cent became part of everyday commerce so seamlessly that few people stopped to examine it closely. Millions were struck with the expectation that they would circulate unnoticed for decades, but subtle variations hidden within the production process slowly transformed certain examples into objects of fascination among advanced collectors. The coin's reddish-brown appearance, the sharp outline of Abraham Lincoln's profile, and the miniature depiction of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse concealed tiny details capable of separating common pocket change from astonishingly scarce discoveries. What makes the 1962 D especially compelling is the way its mysteries developed gradually over time, because the coin did not become famous immediately. Instead, years passed before specialists began identifying unusual characteristics buried within surviving specimens. Inside the Denver Mint, the relentless pace of coin production placed enormous strain on machinery, dies, and workers responsible for maintaining consistency, and that pressure quietly introduced anomalies that would later captivate the numismatic community. Certain 1962 D cents emerged with unusually bold strikes that gave Lincoln's hair extraordinary texture and depth, while others displayed weak details caused by worn dies nearing the end of their useful life. Collectors studying these coins under magnification noticed strange inconsistencies in lettering thickness, spacing around the mint mark, and the positioning of the date itself. Some examples carried faint traces of doubling around Liberty or In God We Trust, while others revealed expanded rims, uneven collars, or distorted edges suggesting brief mechanical failures during the striking process. Even tiny changes in the coin's surface tone sparked debate, because improper alloy mixing or environmental exposure could create colors ranging from blazing orange red to deep mahogany brown. Every variation added another layer to the coin's growing reputation, transforming what once seemed like an insignificant cent into a puzzle filled with overlooked details and unanswered questions. Collectors became increasingly obsessed with the 1962 D because the coin represented a fascinating moment before massive changes would soon reshape American coinage forever. Unlike later Lincoln cents, these pieces still carried the rich bronze composition that produced a warm metallic glow impossible to duplicate in modern copper-plated coins. When untouched mint-state examples survive with original luster, the surface can flash with an almost liquid brilliance beneath proper lighting, creating a dramatic contrast against worn pieces dulled by decades of circulation. Some specimens reveal astonishingly sharp architectural detail on the Lincoln Memorial, with visible columns and crisp lines rarely preserved after years in pocket change. Others exhibit slightly rotated dies or strange strike alignment that only becomes noticeable when carefully compared to ordinary examples. The excitement surrounding these discoveries intensified because many rare pieces surfaced unexpectedly in forgotten bank rolls, inherited collections, and dusty cigar boxes stored for generations without anyone realizing what they contained. Stories spread among collectors about individuals who unknowingly spent unusual coins years before learning their potential significance, creating a lingering sense of missed opportunity that still haunts the hobby today. As the market for high-grade Lincoln cents expanded, the 1962 D slowly climbed from obscurity into serious collector conversations, particularly when exceptional examples began appearing in auctions and private sales. Coins with unusually clean surfaces, vivid original red color, and superior strike quality sometimes achieved recorded outcomes ranging from approximately $5,000 to $12,000, depending on certification, eye appeal, and rarity factors. These results shocked casual observers because the coins initially entered circulation worth only a single cent, making the leap in value feel almost surreal. The fascination grew stronger when collectors realized how difficult it was to locate surviving examples free from scratches, discoloration, cleaning damage, or environmental corrosion. Even small imperfections dramatically reduced desirability, meaning truly elite specimens became far scarcer than original mintage numbers suggested. The emotional impact of these discoveries often extended beyond collecting itself, because finding a valuable cent hidden in ordinary change carried the thrilling possibility that an overlooked object could suddenly alter someone's financial future in ways they never imagined. The most dramatic stories connected to the 1962 D Lincoln Memorial cent usually involve mint errors so unusual that they initially appeared impossible to experienced collectors. Certain authenticated pieces displaying severe off-center strikes, broad strikes, doubled dies, or dramatic die breaks generated enormous attention due to their rarity and visual intensity. Some higher-grade error coins reportedly reached auction outcomes near $20,000 when the abnormalities were both obvious and certified by respected grading organizations. Even more extraordinary examples featuring rare combinations of errors and exceptional preservation have crossed into the $35,000 range in specialized collector markets, particularly when provenance and documentation supported the coin's authenticity. The reason these pieces command such attention is because mint mistakes represent frozen moments of industrial chaos, tiny accidents preserved permanently in metal. Each error tells a story about machinery misalignment, die deterioration, or split-second production failures inside the mint, and collectors often become emotionally attached to the idea that these flawed coins somehow escape destruction to survive for future generations. For advanced collectors, the greatest attraction of the 1962 D lies not only in errors, but also in the astonishing difficulty of locating truly premium mint-state examples untouched by time. Coins displaying blazing red surfaces, nearly flawless fields, razor-sharp details, and minimal contact marks have achieved remarkable private sale and auction outcomes approaching $50,000 under the right circumstances. These coins are admired almost like miniature works of industrial art because they preserve the original appearance intended by the mint before circulation erased their brilliance forever. In rare situations involving unusual striking mistakes, dramatic die failures, or highly distinctive visual anomalies, certain examples reportedly climbed toward the $75,000 level as competition intensified among elite collectors determined to secure unique pieces for registry collections. The emotional tension surrounding these sales often becomes intense because bidders understand they may never encounter another identical specimen again. Stories circulate within the hobby about collectors who passed on unusual cents years earlier only to watch similar examples later sell for astonishing amounts, reinforcing the painful reality that missed opportunities can linger for decades. The most legendary 1962 discoveries exist in a category so rare that they continue fueling speculation throughout the collecting world, especially when extreme mint errors or nearly one-of-a-kind specimens surface unexpectedly after years of obscurity. Coins featuring extraordinary mechanical failures, dramatic misstrikes, or bizarre production anomalies have reportedly approached or exceeded $100,000 in exceptional circumstances when demand, rarity, and certification aligned perfectly. These are not ordinary errors, but spectacular pieces capable of becoming centerpiece items in advanced collections, drawing attention from historians, investors, and serious numismatists alike. In the rarest situations, involving extraordinary provenance, unmatched condition, or historically important mint abnormalities, private sale conversations have even reached levels near $120,000, though such outcomes remain exceptionally uncommon and should never be treated as guaranteed expectations. The reason these stories resonate so deeply is because they blur the line between everyday life and unimaginable discovery, reminding collectors that an object once ignored in loose change could eventually become the centerpiece of a life-changing auction. Careful examination remains essential for anyone investigating a 1962 Lincoln Memorial cent today, because the smallest overlooked detail can completely transform a coin's significance. Weight differences may indicate unusual planchet compositions or striking irregularities, while changes in metal color can reveal environmental exposure, improper cleaning, or potential mint-related anomalies. Collectors study strike alignment to determine whether dies shifted during production, and expanded rims may suggest striking pressure abnormalities or collar malfunctions. Under magnification, letter doubling around the inscriptions or date sometimes reveals valuable variety characteristics invisible to the naked eye, although many forms of doubling are minor and carry little premium. Responsible collectors avoid impulsive selling because altered coins, counterfeit errors, and misleading claims remain widespread throughout the marketplace. Professional authentication from respected grading services is often the only reliable way to confirm whether a coin truly possesses rare attributes worthy of serious attention, and that careful verification process can mean the difference between an ordinary cent and a discovery capable of rewriting someone's understanding of what hidden treasures still exist in everyday places. Next coin. The 1965 Lincoln Memorial cent entered circulation during one of the most chaotic periods in modern American coin production, a time when the United States Mint was struggling to keep up with exploding demand for small change, while public anxiety over disappearing silver coins pushed the entire monetary system toward crisis. At first glance, the coin appeared completely ordinary, carrying the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But beneath that everyday appearance existed a story collectors would spend decades trying to unravel. Unlike earlier years that proudly displayed mint marks, the 1965 cent emerged during a temporary suspension of mint marks intended to discourage hoarding and reduce pressure on mint facilities, creating a strange chapter where identifying production origins became far more difficult. This unusual decision gave the coin an identity unlike the Lincoln cents before it, and over time collectors began noticing subtle inconsistencies in strike quality, color, texture, and lettering that hinted something more complicated had happened inside the mint. What seemed like a routine cent from a turbulent economic era slowly transformed into an object of mystery capable of capturing the attention of advanced numismatists searching for overlooked rarities hidden in plain sight. The environment surrounding the production of the 1965 cent added to its intrigue, because the mint was operating under enormous stress as millions of Americans pulled silver coins from circulation, forcing facilities to accelerate output with relentless speed. Dies wore down faster, presses operated harder, and quality control occasionally suffered as workers attempted to flood the economy with desperately needed coinage. Under magnification, certain 1965 cents reveal strangely soft details around Lincoln's coat and jawline, while others display unusually crisp features suggesting freshly prepared dies, used only briefly before deterioration set in. Collectors examining these coins have discovered examples with faint doubling around the inscriptions, irregular spacing in the lettering, or peculiar strike alignment that shifts the design slightly off-center. Some pieces carry expanded rims or subtle distortions that indicate collar malfunctions during the striking process, while others reveal unusual copper coloration ranging from brilliant orange red to deep reddish-brown tones influenced by alloy conditions and decades of storage. These differences remained largely unnoticed by the public for years because the coins circulated so heavily, passing through countless hands without anyone suspecting that certain examples would later become highly desirable. Part of the fascination surrounding the 1965 Lincoln Memorial Cent comes from the emotional contrast between its humble origins and the extraordinary stories attached to rare surviving examples. These coins bought coffee, newspapers, candy bars, and bus fares during a decade filled with social upheaval and technological change. Yet a small number escaped circulation, with surfaces so pristine they still shimmer today with original mint brilliance. When a fully red mint-state example catches light properly, the surface can appear almost molten, with bright copper luster flowing across Lincoln's portrait and illuminating the tiny architectural details of the memorial on the reverse. Some coins display sharply defined columns and lettering rarely preserved after years of wear, creating a visual depth that makes the design feel far more dramatic than ordinary pocket change. Collectors often describe the experience of finding a superior 1965 cent in an old collection as strangely emotional because it feels like recovering a forgotten artifact from a vanished America, frozen in time while the rest of the surviving coins became scratched, faded, and worn into obscurity. As awareness of the 1965 cent's unusual characteristics spread throughout the numismatic world, collectors began competing aggressively for pieces displaying exceptional preservation or distinctive mint abnormalities. Smaller errors and visually interesting examples started appearing in documented sales ranging from approximately $3,000 to $10,000, depending on certification, condition, and rarity factors. These outcomes surprised many casual observers because the coins were once considered so common that people ignored them entirely in circulation. Yet scarcity in the collecting world is often determined not simply by mintage numbers, but by survival quality, and locating examples untouched by cleaning, corrosion, or heavy contact marks proved remarkably difficult. Certain unusual finds featuring attractive original surfaces or scarce die characteristics reportedly reached around $18,000 in specialized sales, particularly when collectors believed the coin represented a rarely preserved production variation. The growing market transformed the 1965 cent from an overlooked piece of pocket change into a coin capable of triggering intense competition among buyers hopping to secure examples with unusual visual appeal or historical significance. The most dramatic stories connected to the 1965 Lincoln Memorial Cent involve coins that experienced striking abnormalities so unusual they seemed almost impossible when first discovered. Certain authenticated pieces displaying major die cracks, dramatic off-center strikes, broad strikes, or strong doubled features gained enormous attention because they represented physical evidence of brief moments when mint machinery malfunctioned under heavy production pressure. High-grade examples with extraordinary eye appeal have reportedly crossed into the $28,000 range when collectors recognized both their rarity and their outstanding preservation. More visually powerful era coins, especially those with severe misalignment or highly visible doubling, have approached documented sale levels near $45,000 in competitive markets where advanced collectors fought intensely for ownership. The excitement surrounding these pieces comes from the realization that mint eras are essentially industrial accidents preserved permanently in metal, tiny snapshots of mechanical chaos that escaped detection before entering circulation among ordinary Americans unaware of what they carried. Among elite collectors, the most admired 1965 cents are often the ones combining exceptional mint state preservation with dramatic and highly visible mint anomalies. Coins with blazing original red color, nearly flawless surfaces, and rare strike characteristics have generated astonishing demand because surviving examples at that level are extraordinarily scarce. In certain cases, extreme mint state era pieces featuring powerful visual impact and certified authenticity have reportedly achieved values approaching $65,000 during major collector transactions. These coins occupy a unique place in numismatics because they are admired not only for rarity but also for beauty, preserving a level of detail and luster rarely seen after decades of circulation. Some collectors spend years searching through dealer inventories, estate collections, and unopened rolls hoping to encounter one superior example, driven by the belief that another hidden rarity may still exist unnoticed in an ordinary accumulation of cents. The emotional intensity behind these searches often grows stronger with every missed opportunity, especially when stories surface about collectors who once spent unusual coins unknowingly before realizing their significance years later. The rarest and most legendary 1965 Lincoln Memorial cents exist in a category where rarity, condition, and dramatic mint mistakes converge into discoveries capable of astonishing even experienced specialists. Rare misstrikes with severe production abnormalities have reportedly reached documented outcomes near $95,000 when their uniqueness and visual impact attracted aggressive bidding from advanced collectors. These are not simple minor errors, but spectacular anomalies involving dramatic die failures, major off-center strikes, or bizarre mechanical events that created coins unlike almost anything else produced during the year. In exceptionally rare situations involving unique specimens or historically important discoveries, private sales and elite auctions have pushed certain 1965 cents toward astonishing levels approaching $110,000. Such results remain extremely uncommon and should never be viewed as typical expectations, yet they continue fueling the fascination surrounding this seemingly ordinary coin because they prove that hidden treasures can emerge from the most unexpected places. The possibility that a forgotten cent sitting unnoticed in an old drawer could someday command extraordinary attention is precisely what keeps collectors searching with relentless determination. Careful examination is essential for anyone studying a 1965 Lincoln Memorial cent because tiny details can completely alter the coin's significance in the marketplace. Weight should always be checked accurately since unusual planchet compositions or striking irregularities may affect the coin's mass, while the metal's color can reveal oxidation, improper cleaning, environmental exposure, or possible mint-related anomalies. Collectors closely inspect strike alignment to determine whether the dies shifted during production, and expanded or uneven rims may point toward collar errors or striking pressure abnormalities. Under magnification, letter doubling in the date or inscriptions sometimes reveals important die varieties invisible to the naked eye, though many forms of machine doubling carry little premium and are often misunderstood. Responsible collectors resist impulsive decisions because damaged coins are frequently mistaken for valuable errors, and counterfeit alterations remain a serious concern within the marketplace. Professional authentication through respected grading services provides critical verification of rarity, condition, and legitimacy, protecting collectors from costly mistakes while preserving the credibility of discoveries that may truly represent hidden pieces of American minting history.